Hey everybody, it's Mark Schultz here, and we're here for another edition of Recovery in Aviation. We are very excited to be sharing with you digital transformation and strategy and tactics that you can use within the aviation industry to be successful. I have a guest with me today, and it's really exciting because what we're doing is we're combining technology and digital and analytics together to be able to look at how are we helping manufacturers, MROs, and helping line maintenance activities to be successful to help improve ROI and to improve quality control in the process. I have with me today the CEO of a company called 8Tree. Stick with us. You are not. Hey, welcome to the broadcast today. Hey, I have with me today Arun Chhabra. Good morning, Arun. How are you today?
Doing well, Mark. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Arun, where are you coming to us from today?
Outside Los Angeles.
Excellent. So you're in California time. Excellent. Perfect. Really glad to have you with us. Hey, as we get this kicked off today, just as a little introduction, could you tell people who you are and what do you do? It helps people kind of get context for where we're going.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm the CEO of a company called 8Tree, and we specialize in making smart 3D surface inspection tools for high tolerance environments.
Perfect. And now everybody, you're going to want to watch this. This is going to be really interesting because we're going to be talking about the business problems. We're going to be talking about the technology that's being used and basically how manufacturers, airlines and MROs are using technology such as this to be able to help improve turnaround times and to help impact disruption management or help impact disruption. We talked about disruption a little bit last week, and basically to help improve return on investment. Hey, as we get started here, I always like to tell people that we want to make sure that you share these broadcasts. If you look down on your screen, sometimes the screen you have changes a little bit, but if you help us by sharing this broadcast, it helps get the word out, and we can help a lot of people in the industry to get this information and to be successful in the industry. Also, just so you know, is that this is a live broadcast, and we already have people that have been commenting out there. Please comment. We will take your live questions, and also we will recognize you as you jump in, and we like to know where people are coming from. So right now, if you would just tell us, where you are and just say hi, we'd really appreciate it, and we'll throw you up on the screen. Let's bring Arun back in, and let me just say I had a couple people that joined us a little bit early. Maybe we could just put a couple of those up on the screen. We have Motaz. I'm sorry I can't pronounce your last name, but it's amazing because we have people joining us from all around the world. Welcome. I'm glad you're with us today. We also have somebody else that's joined us. It looks like they know you, Arun, Sando Moretti, I guess. That's so it's good. I'm glad to have you there. Others if you're watching out there, which I know we have a lot of people already watching, just drop a comment in there and tell us where you are, and we'll acknowledge you. Also, during the broadcast, we will take pauses to take questions. So, hey, let's dive right in. Hey, Arun, I want to start this conversation today by saying that there's a lot of events in the world that impact the profitability or the efficiency of an operation. I mean, heaven's sakes, we look at the economic downturn that's occurred in the last couple of years. We look at regulatory impacts. We look at growth in technology. We look at things like war. All sorts of things impact our industry. And one of the things that's really important for us to do is to be able to find ways to be more efficient in our operations. Okay. And so today, Arun, we're going to take a look at manufacturers and line maintenance and MROs. And in the context of the things that you're doing, maybe I just ask you this question, is that what are some of the challenges that you're seeing in those areas? Maybe start with manufacturers.
Sure, absolutely. So, for each industry that we play in, we create sort of purpose-built tools. And in that journey of building these purpose-built tools, we go through a process of discovery. We understand the pain points that the market is facing for those applications. And then we spend a few years embedding ourselves with that industry, learning that pain point as well as, and hopefully better than, the people that suffer from it. And so when you look at manufacturing of aircraft, there are several areas where the manufacturing teams encounter a lot of challenges. One of the most prominent ones is when they're bringing portions of the aircraft subassemblies together, they need to insert fasteners to bring it all together, and then they need to inspect those fasteners. So we make a tool, for instance, to address fastener flushness. Similarly, if you look at other industries and even within the manufacturing sector, surface deformation is a big challenge because the surface needs to be within a very tight tolerance in terms of smoothness. And that applies equally to manufacturing as well as the MRO world. And the biggest challenge that this all translates to from an operator standpoint, from a worker standpoint, is ensuring quality while also ensuring objectivity and consistency of the measurements that you're doing. And that's where we sort of help.
Yeah, that's perfect. Arun, just so people can kind of get some context around, how broadly you're looking at this problem, that this isn't an unproven, kind of a technology. How many companies, let's say, have you worked with in the last couple of years? I mean, just give me a guess.
You mean our customer, potential customer?
Your
base?
customers, customers, potential customers, right.
Yeah, so we currently have close to 4 dozen customers actively using our tools every day worldwide.
Okay.
These range from airlines to MROs to OEMs across multiple different sectors: commercial, cargo, military, and business aviation. So does that give you a
it does. No. So actually, I want to give people a sense of the perspective you're coming from is actually quite broad, and you're working with a lot of different people. And so when you say you design solutions which address the problems or the challenges they're having, you're doing it from quite a broad perspective, is what I can see.
That's correct. We whether it's the manufacturing environment or the MRO environment, the challenges are unique, and they require a very disciplined and diligent focus on embedding yourself in the midst of that challenge to fully understand it.
Perfect. Hey, I see that we have so many people that have joined us. I promised people that we would acknowledge a few of them. I said everybody. Let's see if we can acknowledge a few of them. Maybe we could just throw a few on the screen. And we have Juan Java from Zambia. Thank you and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. And we have Sandra. He said he's from Brazil. Sando says he's from Brazil. Is that somebody Arun?
Yes, Sandra and his team are partners of ours in South America. So,
perfect. Excellent.
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. And then we have Hans, who's joining us from Belgium. Welcome, Hans. Glad to have you. Hey, one of the amazing things, Arun, that I like about this is that we can today in digital technology we can join people all over the world. Isn't it just amazing? And how that can happen. We have Leonardo from Portugal. Welcome, Leonardo. Glad to have you with us. We have Nadia joining us from South Africa. We have, we have Barry Alexander who's joining us. He doesn't say, I think, where he is from, but welcome. Glad to have you joining us here. And then we have Nigel joining us from AAR in the UK. Welcome. AAR is a great MRO. I'm glad to have you watching here today. Looks like we have visitors from Janik from India. Welcome from India. Let's see. Wow, we got such a long list of people here today. We have always have people from the UK that are joining us. Welcome. And we have Jacques from Brazil. So it looks like that's a good list. Oh, there's even more. They're off my screen down there. One more. Let's acknowledge one more, and then we'll kind of move on. We have Steve joining us here today. Great. Hey, welcome everybody. I'm really happy that we have so many people watching us today. I want to really give you some value. So let's keep going. Now, remember, those of you that are watching, if you want to ask questions, I will take a break in a few minutes and we'll answer some of those questions. I always like to try to stump our guests, so be sure you ask really hard ones, so good. All right. So, Arun, help me out here now. So as we talk about some of these challenges that you're addressing, we'll just bring up this next graphic that we have. I want to kind of ask you the next one, if we could. When you're looking at the challenges that we have in the industry and manufacturing, like, for example, you talked a little bit about some of the challenges of manufacturing. And I see what we're looking at here right now is driving of rivets, potentially, or fasteners. Can you talk a little bit about the challenge that exists with that?
Sure. So, very simply put, the challenges are related to rework costs for the manufacturers. When the process, as many of you are probably familiar with, is they drill holes and then they fill them with rivets or fasteners. And then traditionally, the industry has done sample-based inspection of these millions of rivets that have gone into the airframe. And when we first started out with our fastener fleshness product was actually one of our first products in the very early days. We went to the industry and we said, hey, look, we can help you move from sample-based inspection to virtually real-time inspection of every rivet. So you can do 100% inspection. And I think we were a bit too early for the market at that time in terms of their understanding and belief of, hey, this is even possible. Fortunately, we're seeing that is now coming to fruition with several tier ones and OEMs that are actually implementing it to perform 100% inspection. And that brings down, going back to your question, that brings down the rework cost. Not only does it ensure better quality, but that better quality, then the closer you get to the end of the aircraft manufacturing stages, any rework sort of has a logarithmic effect on costs, right, for reworking. And so the sooner they can catch those things and remedy them, the greater the value to them.
So you have early discovery. That sounds good. Reducing rework. That sounds good. So what you're telling me, though, is that these visual inspections or using other means of inspection in the past, you actually you have the speed and the performance in the manufacturing line to potentially do 100% inspection. Is that, am I hearing you say that correctly?
We do. Our customers do with our technology, and some of them already have started implementing it.
That's amazing. So can you give me a sense of how much of an impact that would have, overall? I mean, I don't know whether, qualitative, quantitatively, financially, how much of an impact does it have to move from sampling inspection to, 100% inspection?
So I can't comment, very genuinely, I can't comment on any understanding of the financial impact to our customers on the manufacturing operations, but it's significant because now the rework essentially involves not only labor time, but actually the cost of materials to scrap and redo things. But I think beyond just the dollar amount, which is significant of value, there is the safety element that we need to be very mindful of, right? Quality equates to safety. And so the better the quality of the rivets, the more the opportunity to do 100% inspection. When the aircraft goes out, there's less sort of guessing of, well, I hope everything else is in line with the sample-based inspection that was done.
Okay. Hey, I know one of the problems that we have in the industry is corrosion. Does the ability to be able to, do greater inspection impact, corrosion at all? Better sealing, or is there any impact there at all?
So corrosion is, to the best of our understanding over the years, as we've helped the industry address it, it's basically a problem that comes on through the course of operation of the aircraft.
Okay.
Right. And so it's a natural byproduct of the life of the aircraft as it goes through extreme environments. And so we, through one of our other tools, we actually enable the industry to accelerate the way in which they're able to do corrosion inspection and blend out inspection, as it's called, because they essentially sand or blend out the corroded area, but then they have to, the industry requirements are quite stringent. They have to grid it and very intricately, fill out each small little grid with the measurement values. And today it's all manual, it's all subjective, and as a result, unfortunately, it's all inconsistent. And so we bring in the digitalization of that process, which also speeds it up and ensures better quality and objectivity.
Yeah, well, that's just really interesting. So maybe we'll get a little bit later into a few of the different types of tools you have. I have a question that I wanted to ask. I used to work at Boeing, and I saw a lot of really amazing manufacturing processes. I saw rework as well. But one of the questions I have pertains to composite aircraft is that, how does this technology assist or aid in inspection of composite airframes or composite components?
Great question. So essentially the same way it does for metallic airframes and components is that we keep in mind, we do surface inspection, so we can't see underneath the surface. So if it's delamination, we're not going to pick it up. However, the moment there's any kind of deviation that has developed that's on the surface, even if it's not visible to the naked eye, we will pick it up. And that's what we do on metallic structures. That's what we do on composite structures. As a matter of fact, when the OEMs approved one of our tools for the MRO industry, subsequently they came back and did a revision about a year later of their approvals and said, hey, we've done our independent tests and we see it's highly effective even on composite floorboards, which is an area of heavy wear and tear inside the cabin. And so I hope that gives you a little bit of insight into the composite side of things as
Yeah,
well.
it does. Thank you very much. Hey, I wanted to go back. We've talked a lot about manufacturers and how you're helping maybe manufacturers or assembly lines, but I understand that two other major areas which you are impacting, quality and efficiency is in both line maintenance and in, say, heavy maintenance. Can you give me a feeling for, the value of using this kind of solutions in line maintenance and heavy maintenance?
Absolutely. So in the line maintenance environment, time is of the essence, right? And so what our customers have witnessed is essentially a 90% gains in efficiency. So they're saving 90% of the time that they used to spend mapping a dent on the line. But that time is only part of the story, that time savings, because if you think about it, that time then translates to, or that the efficiency gains in the time for inspection translates very directly to less time on the ground for the aircraft. Therefore, it's a quicker turnaround time. And that is where the real savings are for the airline operators.
Interesting. Hey, there was a comment. It's not really a question, but there's a comment that came up that I wanted to throw on the screen that I wanted you to address because I think it's really interesting and pertinent to what you just said. If we could look at the comment by Hans down there, I would appreciate it if we could just throw that up on the screen. He basically is saying that, damage checking, there's a certain amount of objectivity, or subjectivity, I guess, that goes into that. What are your thoughts on, visual inspections and subjectivity as opposed to using more technical means? Can you give us some thoughts on that, please?
Absolutely. So reading Hans's comment brings a smile to my face because it reminds me of things we've heard from our customers in the early days that are verbatim that. As a matter of fact, some of them say you bring 3 guys to measure the same dent and you get 5 different answers. So Hans is being quite generous by saying 3 different answers. But the, so the reality is this: we as an industry, as humans, we work with the best that is available to us at any given time. And so the aviation industry has been dealing until now with mechanical gauges and straight edge rulers to measure dents. And that's been the technology, the state of the art, if you will, for several decades. The problem, though, is how you hold that gauge, where you hold it, even if it's a fraction of a millimeter off in one direction of the dent, you're going to get inconsistent readings, and that is where then everything snowballs into the problems.
Okay.
So fully agreed with Hans's.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Good comment. Thank you, Hans. I appreciate you bringing it up. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to put them up like that. I would really appreciate it. It adds to our conversation. Thank you. Hey, I wanted to have the next 2 segments I want to talk about. I want to focus a little bit on your technology. Then I want to focus on a little bit of the software and how it applies into looking at tolerances and things like that. But first of all, can we talk about the technology a little bit? Is this laser technology, or tell me a little bit about what kind of technology you're using?
Absolutely. So first of all, the process by which our tools operate is a fairly well understood discipline. It's called structured light scanning. So it's a triangulation method where there's a loud light output mechanism that you see here on the left, where you're shining encoded or fringe patterns of light on a target surface, and the reflections are picked up by a camera, and that triangulation angle then gives you information about the depth of each point that you're shining light on. So the discipline of structured light scanning, some very generically, people also sometimes refer to it as white light scanning, is fairly well understood. But really our difference, if you will, in terms of how we approach this is that I think it's best captured in a quote we heard many years ago that's attributed to Jason Pontin, who was the former editor of the MIT Technology Review. And I believe he's quoted as saying, don't bend to technology, make technology bend to you. And it sounds very benign, but how that comes into play for us as a product company, we were very focused. Our pedigree as a company is about almost 30 years of precision 3D scanning. So we've made 3D scanners our whole lives
Mm.
in our previous careers. But that industry has very versatile equipment, but it requires a great deal of knowledge to figure out an understanding inside a client's organization to figure out essentially how to turn it on, how to program it, how to interpret mountains of data that a 3D scanner is creating. And we saw this sort of mountain of work that was being put onto the shoulders of the end customer, and we started thinking, okay, that works great if you have an R&D department, or if you're needing first article inspection and you have resources to throw at it. But what if you're on a critical line assembly, whether it's manufacturing or maintenance, and one small pause causes a bottleneck in the whole flow? And the pause comes in because the guy doing the inspection doesn't have the know-how to use such advanced technology. So they then look over their shoulder, ask a bunch of experts. It introduces delay. So our goal was, how do we, Jason Pontin's view, how do we abstract all the complexity of the technology and just deliver an answer, not data? And that's exactly what we do. We sort of, our vision guides our product development, and it's to basically deliver 3D precision scanning or 3D precision measurements as easily as taking a photo. All of our tools work with one button. You click it, and the operator immediately sees, using augmented reality that's built in, they see an actionable answer, and they're instantly able to take action, whether they're a technician, a mechanic, or a highly trained engineer. They can all leverage that on the line.
So I'm hearing you saying that, I'm hearing you saying that a core value is to leverage advanced technology, but to make it easy to use so that you can be more efficient. I mean, is that really what you just said?
It is part of it, and maybe to really bring it all together, it's not just about the ease of use, but it's really about very intimately understanding the workflow of the industry that you're trying to cater to for that problem. Because every problem statement within every industry, and of course across industries, the workflow is distinctly different. And if you go in trying to push technology for the sake of technology without regarding the workflow, and you tell them, hey, just redo your whole workflow, more than likely that technology is going to be dead on arrival. And so that's our philosophy in terms of product design.
Oh, that's really interesting, because you're putting into there something I say week after week after week is that, people and their knowledge and processes and technology put together, really result in, real digital transformation. It's not just the introduction of technology. It's people really understanding, what it is that they're doing, implementing of appropriate processes, and then introduction of enabling technology together, which helps us to do full, digital transformation.
Right. And wasn't it, I think, was it Apple or Steve Jobs who said that basically technology, when done right, almost appears like magic because it's transparent to the user.
Perfect.
That's what we endeavor to do.
That's good. That's really good. Hey, I wanted to back up a second, because I heard you say something is that I asked you whether this was laser technology, and you clearly told me it was LED technology, right?
That's correct. So it's multispectral LED. So it's still solid state light like laser, but then it has none of the questions or red flags that potentially come up with laser and laser safety. Okay,
perfect. Because I didn't want to confuse in the audience that I brought up that term and having them think that it was laser technology. Perfect. Okay. Now I told you that we were going to jump to the questions surrounding software. Before I do that, maybe I'll just recognize a couple of other people. I see we had a couple of visitors. We have one down there. We have Kamal. Let's see. Well, we have Ulash from Uzbekistan. I had the distinct honor of visiting Uzbekistan Airways one time. That was very interesting. It was a great visit. And thank you for joining us today from Uzbekistan. And then I think we have up there, we also have Kamal. Did we recognize Kamal? I'm not sure that we did, but we have Kamal who's joined us. Kamal, thanks for joining us. Doesn't say where you're from, but I appreciate you being here today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them out there. We still are going to have a few minutes for questions. I wanted to go to the discussion now a little bit around software. Okay, so you said that you can produce technology, you can manufacture technology that will produce a bunch of data, but obviously you got some software on the back end of that produces information or an answer. Okay, we have one picture which shows one of your tools kind of in action. Could you maybe just explain what's happening here in these three photographs?
Absolutely. So the left side, this gray image, if you will, is an airframe surface. You see there are there's a line of rivets, frame stringers, some of which are missing, and then you see a couple of dents that are towards the middle and upper middle of the image. Um, on the right, what you see is operators, our customers, holding up the tool, one of our tools that they use for dent inspection, dent mapping, holding it up to the aircraft and simply clicking a button. And within a couple of seconds, not only is the scanning done, but the real-time analysis in the tool is done. And then the technology sort of does double duty and switches into an augmented reality display so that the user immediately sees the answers as required by industry specifications. So in the MRO space, the SRM criteria. That is for that specific dent, it's projected or using AR directly superimposed onto the dent on the airframe. So now the operator immediately sees, am I in or out of limits? There's no taking out a calculator and a piece of paper and a ruler, none of that.
Wait, that's really super interesting. I really did not understand that. What you're telling me is that you're doing a scan, you're actually comparing that to the structural repair manual limits that you might get from the manufacturer. You're doing processing on it, then you're actually projecting an image of it on the surface. Is that what's happening here?
You're correct, except for the second portion of what you said. We do not have visibility into the SRM. The SRM is a proprietary document that's owned and very closely guarded by the OEMs.
Okay.
However, what we do is we analyze that damage as per the requirements of the SRM, because the SRM says you must, for every dent that you measure, whether you're doing it manually or with technology of any sort, you have to measure specific attributes, the long axis, the short axis, the depth, deepest point, and then the critical ratio that of those that defines the severity of the slope of that damage. And then you assign that gets assigned a ratio or a number, and that number tells the technician, based on their understanding of the SRM for that zone of the aircraft, whether they are in or out of limits. So we give them that number. They, based on their understanding of the SRM, immediately make a call.
Okay.
And yes, for the rest of it, it's true what you said. It is inbuilt AR, so in real time we project that result with the
yeah, that's really interesting. So, all right, so I did have one more step in there that you're not doing. But so then, what is the output? Then you have a visual image that's an output. I see there's like a printed piece of paper there, but is there print or digital integration capabilities, or how does that all work?
So it's all of the above. So what we designed it for was really to digitalize the entire dent mapping workflow. And I'm speaking right now just about the MRO airline use case, right? So they need to inspect the dent. That's what they do with the tool. The inspector goes up or the technician goes up, they push a button, they get an answer, and they see it on the screen, on the aircraft skin. Now, if it's in limits, they're probably fine. They don't need to generate any paperwork. Maybe they need to just record the fact in their system that this is done. And because our tools are all connected to the cloud, it allows them to instantly have the scan results stored in their repository or on our cloud database so that it's visible to all their operators all over the world. They can also share that with OEMs.
It's connected, and that means then that you could send that information to maintenance control or to engineering, and then that could be sent directly into their MRO system, or
Absolutely. And that's the second half of what we do, which is that digitalizing the whole workflow. So there's the inspection part, and then there's the reporting part. And so what you see, this little half of a sheet of paper that you see, it's actually the first page of a dent check damage map report that our customers now use to submit reports every day. Somewhere in the world, they're submitting it to the OEMs for dispositioning damage on an aircraft.
So you might have somebody producing. You might have somebody producing that information where an engineer might include it and send it off to the manufacturer, for a potential repair, or it might be sent into an MRO system to part of the dent and buckle report, or different elements. There's all sorts of different possibilities you're telling me.
Absolutely, and just to clarify, there's very little work for the structures person to put in to create that report, because it's the core bulk of it is coming from the tool itself. But then this engineer can simply add frame stringer lines, and then the report automatically populates the critical distances to key areas, how far you are from a frame stringer line, etc. So there's a wealth of information that can be planted, but typically on average our customers are creating reports within a couple of minutes after receiving the data analytics.
Yeah, really very interesting. I mean, Arun, out of all the technology that I look at and software and things that I look at, this is really one of those things which enables digital transformation. And, digital transformation isn't just bringing a piece of technology, so you can do a scan, print out an image, and then go figure out what to do with it. I mean, you're bringing to the table, so many different elements of digital transformation. You're enabling the ability to be able to more rapidly capture, the damage information or the manufacturing information. You're capturing the data. You're giving them immediate visual feedback. You're providing connections to connected systems. I mean, this is really an enabler. It's really a technology enabler together. When you look at, the capabilities you put in there, I really congratulate, Atree. It just really looks to me like you have a really amazing piece of a solution to some of the industry challenges through this.
Well, Mark, that's very generous of you to recognize, but I do want to just make one quick observation to emphasize our humility in what we do. Yes, we believe we're helping with some core chronic problems, but at the same time, the suite of problems in the industry is so vast and expansive. We view ourselves as one piece of a very large puzzle, and for that reason, it's imperative that everything we design, every tool we design, we try to ensure that it has interoperability with other systems that our customers might use. Because again, creating multiple, or for a customer to acquire multiple technologies or tools or products, but to only have them live in their individual silos is just a new form of the same problem. And so for us, interoperability is really key.
No, that's really interesting. And so I appreciate what you're saying. There's such a wide variety of challenges that we have, but you said at the beginning that what you've done is you've taken the knowledge and expertise you've had from other industries, and you've looked at specifically the challenges and problems that people were having in aviation, and then zeroed it down even further to manufacturing and maybe line maintenance or, heavy maintenance, and said, what kind of a solution do they need? And then you provided a solution for that very targeted challenge that exists. I understand that, but it looks like you guys have made some tremendous headway, going in that direction. It's very interesting. Let's see if we have any other comments or things out there. So, hey, listen, I do want to make an offer to people is, if people need to or want to continue this conversation, Arun, I mean, how would they get in touch with you or get in touch with your company, or what's the best way to do that?
Absolutely. So there are two ways. My email address, you're welcome to communicate directly with me. I look forward to speaking to people. But if they want to send an inquiry to our team, they can also just send it to info@Atree, and someone in our company will respond very promptly.
Yeah, fantastic. That's really good. Hey, how long has the company been around? You said it's been 30 years?
No. So our pedigree in the 3D scanning space is about 30 years across our R&D team. We've been at this for almost two and a half decades, or a bit longer. Atree has been in existence for 10 years. This year, 2022, marks our 10th year anniversary.
Well, congratulations on that. But it's also not a brand new company. This is apparently, is leveraging demonstrated technology in the industry over the last 10 years to address specific industry problems and challenges. And so this isn't the first go around, obviously. It looks like you've leveraged mature technology, but made it better and applied it to very difficult industry challenges.
Yeah, so exactly. I think the best way to capture that is really our product design philosophy is around, if you think about it, right? Apple wasn't the first one to create a smartphone. You had the Palm Pilot, you had several other such devices, but what companies like Apple did in the areas that they made an impact was how they brought different things together to work harmoniously, right? They didn't develop cellular band radios, they didn't develop handheld Palm Pilots, but they brought it all together to work really harmoniously, and that's what we strive to do with the tools that we make.
Perfect. Hey, listen, I think I'll take one question here. If we could just throw up that question from Yuxel, maybe we could just answer that question. What do you think about to use the report integration with other reporting systems for customers? So I suppose that if people have other systems that they use for reporting, there's a lot of them out there, records or MRO systems, or give us your thoughts on that question.
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, hello to Yuxel. She's a friend of the company, so we have known her for many years.
Very good.
And I think the question is a very good one, because where does every company that every airline MRO that we deal with has their own tracking system, right? Some have in-house built tracking spreadsheets for where the dent damage might be. Others use established large company players that many do in the industry, and then there's a sea of startups that are providing damage tracking. And I think Yuxel's question really goes back to something I mentioned to you a couple of minutes ago, Mark, which is our stress on interoperability. We strive to make sure that the output and the reports of DentCheck can feed seamlessly into reporting platforms and tracking platforms, not reporting platforms. So the tracking platform. So when a customer has a wireframe of an aircraft, they have a bunch of red dots denoting damage. When they click on a red dot, it pops up a DentCheck damage report and all the forensics that go with it, as opposed to traditionally what used to be a stack of paper with handwriting scribbled on it and 2D photos stapled to it. So that's something we've already showcased over the years in terms of our ability to do that with companies like Dent and Buckle, and we entertain similar interest from other such damage tracking platforms as well. And it's through that same cloud portal that we offer that I alluded to earlier. That allows the seamless interface to these tracking platforms.
I know you don't have any, or you weren't able to share any specific data, but having worked in the industry for a long time myself, I've seen a lot of Dent and Buckle reports, and with the large preponderance of aircraft today being leased, and the need to demonstrate the status of an aircraft and where all the damage is, it becomes a very critical element of the value of an aircraft. When you go to return an aircraft to the leaseholder, it's important that information is accurately captured and accurately reported. And so this is a very valuable element of managing and maintaining that Dent and Buckle status, for a leased aircraft. It's very important.
Yeah, absolutely right. And that's what we've been seeing over the years. So the interest seems to be growing from the aircraft leasing side of the industry. As a matter of fact, that's what drives our participation in ISTAT Americas this coming weekend. So
really? Okay.
Because to cater to that interest.
Perfect. We have one other question here from Thiago. Maybe we'll just throw that one up there on the screen. How does integration of damage assessment maybe link up with drones? Do you guys have any experience operating with drone operators yet, or drone manufacturers, or anybody yet?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you, Thiago, for the question. We always try to think about what the industry will need down the road, and we start investing time researching the landscape and putting the building blocks in place. So our work in the drone space for aviation specifically began in around the 2015, 2016 timeframe. And we started working with a variety of drone players that had aviation experience. One of them, and we continue to do so, and we're these engagements are at different stages of maturity depending on the partner. One of them that's currently public information is a company called Donicle out of France. And so at the culmination, at the end of last year, it timed well with a year-long evaluation conducted by the French Air Force, where they took a Donicle drone mounted with our DentCheck, Atreus DentCheck analytics to inspect a Dassault aircraft, a Rafale fighter jet. And over the course of that evaluation trial, the conclusion was that they were able to do that whole 2D and 3D analytics within an hour.
So they actually, you actually did a technology integration between the Donicle drone and the product. Okay, so when he was asking that question, I was thinking, are you using to the technology to inspect like VTOL kind of aircraft or drone kind of aircraft. But you answered the question in another way, which was very good, is that you've actually integrated that technology and are using it as part of drone inspection. That's a whole nother growing, field, that out there that exists. That's really interesting.
No, absolutely. And I mean, just to allay any questions that might be related to, if someone was curious about, are we getting into drones? Our expertise is precision measurement, and everyone has their core competence. So there's no point in us reinventing the drone, but it's to sort of marry the core competencies of companies like Donegal and ourselves and other drone players as well, to allow the industry to mimic what they currently do with human beings, right? Which is they do GVI, and then when they find an anomaly, they bring a tool to it. So akin to that, a drone has a 2D camera performing GVI all around the aircraft. And once it identifies and isolates, the 5 areas that are of concern, it switches the sensor. It basically swivels the sensor to the 3D and brings it down to the area of interest. And exactly as you saw in those pictures that we discussed, it does the real-time dent mapping.
Really very clever, integration, putting those different things together and even further increasing the capabilities, and creating further efficiency. Very interesting. Hey, Arun, I want to ask you a bit of a personal question. I just want to ask you this, is that, at this time in industry, when we look at the advances in technology or what's happening in aviation, what are you just personally most excited about? What are the opportunities for the future?
That's a great question with a layered answer, and if you'll permit me. So I think there's the facet of wanting to introduce more. Obviously, we see more opportunity because our tools are living, breathing systems, right? So we keep pushing out new features, new capabilities to our customers. So technically, a customer that adopted our technology 4 years ago would have a system that's the same as a customer who adopted it today, because they're constantly getting the new feature capabilities. And so those new features are really what excite us, because we see the potential for even more significant efficiency enhancements and labor savings and safety enhancements across the industry. And just a quick, to bring a point to that example, is last year we introduced a panoramic scanning function that essentially was designed around the needs of the industry's request for catastrophic hail damage assessment. And it started getting used by the industry last year. And just as a sample size, our tool is brought in to map severely hail damaged aircraft, more than 500 dents per wide body aircraft. And the end customers essentially anecdotally told us what our technology delivered for them, from the mapping to the reporting, in days, would have ordinarily taken them months per aircraft. So that to us is very exciting, that the work we've been doing to implement these new features and iterating on them for the last several years is starting to make an impact for the industry. But that's from the technology and the feature excitement, if you will, right? There's a much more visceral and human aspect to this for us, and it pertains to a dialogue we've been a part of for the last, again, 6 years within the industry, which is around, at that time, what was viewed as this wave of industry-wide retirements that are coming up, right? The current cadre of technicians, mechanics, inspectors, they have an immense understanding of dent mapping, structural understanding, but it's based on tenure and practice. So they have calibrated eyes and they have calibrated fingers. And they use mechanical gauges and they do things really well. They're retiring, and the industry has been grappling with what's next, who's going to fill their shoes. How do we bring in that workforce and excite them with what they may view as an old industry, right? And so we've been working with various stakeholders in the industry, but one of them is really aviation schools, because we believe that the students of today, they're learning things in the classroom. If we can help expose them to the technologies that they will have access to in the workplace of tomorrow, hopefully it will resonate resonate so strongly because they grew up on gadgets, right? It'll allow them to see that this is not an old state industry, it's actually an industry that's keeping up with the times and using technology to enhance things. And it'll allow that learning curve for them to be compressed as well. So I'm really excited that some of the very well-known aviation schools have now come on board. They're starting to introduce and check into their curriculum. And that's really what excites us, is to see the contribution we can make to the industry and the workforce.
Yeah, just really, Arun, thank you for your contributions to the industry. And, and my personal passion is aviation and digital. And when I put those together and can have this kind of conversation, it just excites me. And so, I feel, the things that you're involved in, and I really very much appreciate, your engagement and the things you're doing for the industry that your company is doing for the industry. It really is making a difference. It really does. Hey, can we throw up the contact screen again one more time, just so that if anybody's out there and wants to continue the conversation, please reach out to info@8-tree.com, or Arun, can people reach you on LinkedIn as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you want to reach out to Arun on LinkedIn, go ahead and do that. But thank you so much. And hey, for everybody watching here today, we try to bring interesting strategies and tactics and technology and digital transformation within aviation. We're also expanding into other industries as well. And so continue to follow us on Wednesdays, and we have regular broadcasts on Wednesdays at 9 o'clock Pacific, 12 noon Eastern time. And as you can see from this conversation today, you get a lot of value. I hope you get a lot of value out of it and a lot of knowledge and insight. We have people that join us from all around the world. And just yesterday, I had somebody tell me, from a large company here in the US, they said, we really appreciate, the broadcasts that you do and bringing, knowledgeable people that are with interesting ideas and thoughts, because it does make a difference in the industry. So Arun, I want to thank you so much. And if you want to reach out to me, I see they just threw up an email address. You can also reach out to me as well at mark@digitalaircraft.com and or at org.org as well. And we'd be happy to, start a conversation. We just really like to talk about digital and about digital transformation. And we're also happy to connect you with any of our guests or anybody that's been involved, in our conversations. So thank you for joining today, Arun. I appreciate your time and all that you're doing for the industry.
Thank you, Mark. We really appreciated the discussion with you and your community. Thanks so much.
Very good. And for those of you watching today, I always like to say thank you for joining us. Join us next week at the same time. Fair winds and following seas to you, and have a great